The observation deck of the Cretan combat arena hummed with the conversation of 100 different species. Ambassador Telmora of the Galactic Council adjusted her translator implant and watched through the reinforced viewing port as the arena floor was prepared below. Beside her, Commander Zextor stood with his 4 arms crossed, his reptilian features twisted into what might have been satisfaction. "The humans," Zextor announced to the assembled dignitaries, "claim they deserve a seat among the advanced civilizations. Today, we shall see if their claim has merit." On the arena floor, Sarachin stood alone. She was small compared to most species present, barely reaching 5.5 feet tall. Her brown skin gleamed under the harsh arena lights, and her black hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail. The armor they had given her was basic, standard issue for all arena challengers. In her right hand, she held a plasma blade that hummed softly. Through the viewing port, Sarah looked remarkably calm. She stretched her shoulders and rolled her neck like an athlete preparing for a routine competition. This reaction confused the aliens watching from above. "She does not appear frightened," observed Cthar, a massive insectoid diplomat whose species had faced the arena trials centuries ago. "Ignorance," Zextor replied with a dismissive gesture. "Humans have no natural defenses. No claws, no armor plating, no venom. Their planet is primitive. They cannot possibly understand what faces them." Ambassador Telmora said nothing, but her eyes remained fixed on the human below. Something about the woman's posture bothered her. Sarah Chun did not move like someone who was ignorant. She moved like someone who was waiting. A horn blared across the arena. The far gate began to rise with a grinding mechanical sound. What emerged made several of the younger diplomats step back from the viewing port. The Vorthak Berserker stood 8 feet tall, its body covered in thick gray hide that could deflect most energy weapons. Its 4 arms ended in bone claws sharp enough to tear through steel. The creature's eyes were solid black, empty of anything resembling thought or mercy. It had been starved for 3 days to increase its aggression. The Vorthak spotted Sarah immediately and released a roar that shook the arena walls. It charged forward with surprising speed, its clawed feet tearing chunks from the stone floor. Sarah did not run. She did not even raise her weapon immediately. Instead, she stood perfectly still, her eyes tracking the creature's movement. At the last possible second, she stepped sideways, letting the Berserker's momentum carry it past her. The move was so simple, so economical, that it almost looked boring. The Vorthak spun around, confused. It charged again. Again, Sarah sidestepped, this time moving in a wide circle around the creature. "What is she doing?" Cthar asked. "Why does she not attack?" "She is watching it," Telmora said quietly, "learning its patterns." Zextor scoffed. "There is nothing to learn. The Vorthak knows only rage and hunger. It cannot be outsmarted." But down in the arena, Sarah had begun to move with purpose. Each time the Berserker charged, she was already moving before it reached her. She began to lead it in specific directions, forcing it to change angles, making it twist its body in awkward ways. The creature grew more frustrated with each failed attack. Then Sarah changed tactics. As the Vorthak charged once more, she suddenly ran directly toward it. The aliens in the observation deck gasped. But at the last moment, Sarah dropped into a slide, passing between the creature's legs while dragging her plasma blade upward. The weapon cut through the softer hide of the Berserker's inner thigh. The Vorthak howled and stumbled. Sarah was already rolling back to her feet, moving away, giving the wound time to weaken the creature. She had cut the major muscle groups. Now every step the Berserker took would be slower, more painful. The fight that followed was methodical. Sarah never tried to match the creature's strength. She never stayed close long enough for it to grab her. She simply watched, waited, and struck at weak points. The back of the knee, the inside of the elbow, small cuts that added up. After 10 minutes, the Vorthak collapsed from blood loss and exhaustion. Sarah stood over it, breathing heavily but still steady on her feet. She deactivated her plasma blade and looked up at the observation deck. Then she smiled. Not a smile of victory or arrogance. It was a smile of someone who had done exactly what she expected to do. In the observation deck, the silence was absolute. Commander Zextor's expression had changed from confidence to something that might have been concern. The medical bay smelled of antiseptic and ozone. Sarah sat on an examination table while a Matherian medic treated the shallow cuts on her arms. The medic's tentacles moved with practiced efficiency, applying healing gel that made Sarah's skin tingle. "You fought well," the medic said in halting English. "Most challengers do not survive the Vorthack." Sarah nodded her thanks. Through the transparent wall of the medical bay, she could see the arena officials arguing among themselves. Their body language told her everything she needed to know. They were not happy with her victory. Commander Zextor entered the bay with heavy footsteps. His scaled face was difficult to read, but his posture was aggressive. "The Council wishes to proceed with additional trials," he announced. "Your victory was impressive, but perhaps fortunate. We must be certain of your species' capabilities." Sarah met his eyes without flinching. "How many more trials?" "That depends on your performance," Zextor replied, turning to leave. "Rest. You fight again in 2 hours." After he left, Sarah closed her eyes and let her mind drift backward. She was 12 years old again, standing in the red dust of the Australian outback. Her grandfather knelt beside her, pointing at tracks in the dirt. "See how the dingo moved here," he had said. It was hunting, but it was also being careful. Predators are not stupid, Sarah. They think. They plan. If you want to survive in the wild, you must think like they do. You must see the patterns. That lesson had stayed with her through university, through her doctorate in animal behavior, through countless field studies. She had tracked saltwater crocodiles through mangrove swamps. She had observed great white sharks from inadequate cages. She had documented the hunting patterns of every apex predator she could find. And she had learned one crucial truth. The deadliest predator was not the one with the biggest teeth. It was the one who understood the mind of its prey. The 2 hours passed quickly. When Sarah returned to the arena floor, she found it had been modified. Rocky outcroppings now dotted the space, creating obstacles and hiding places. The viewing deck was more crowded than before. Word of the human challenger had spread. This time, 3 gates opened simultaneously. The Scrix came through in a pack of 6. They were smaller than the Vorthack, roughly the size of large dogs, but what they lacked in size they made up for in coordination. Their bodies were covered in dark scales, and their tails ended in razor-sharp bone spikes. They communicated through high-pitched clicks and whistles, moving together like water flowing around obstacles. Sarah recognized pack tactics immediately. These creatures hunted as a unit. They would try to surround her, cut off escape routes, then attack from multiple angles simultaneously. The Scrix spread out in a practice formation, 3 moving left and 3 moving right. They were trying to flank her. Sarah did not wait for them to complete their maneuver. She sprinted directly toward the left group, targeting the leader. The sudden aggression surprised them. The lead Scrix hesitated for just a moment, and Sarah exploited that hesitation. She vaulted over a low rock outcropping, putting the stone between herself and the left group. Now the arena was divided. 3 Scrix on one side of the rocks, 3 on the other. The creatures clicked urgently to each other, trying to re-establish their formation. But Sarah was already moving again, keeping the rocks between the 2 groups. She focused on the right side group now, charging toward them, then suddenly changing direction at the last second. The Scrix lunged where she had been, not where she was going. Pack hunters relied on predictability. Sarah made herself unpredictable. In the observation deck, Ambassador Telmora leaned forward. "She is disrupting their communication patterns," she said, forcing them to make individual decisions instead of group decisions. Zextor's expression had grown darker. The Scrix have never been defeated by a solitary opponent. "Perhaps they have never faced a human before," Telmora replied. On the arena floor, Sarah had injured 2 of the Scrix with quick strikes. The pack's coordination was breaking down. They were becoming frustrated, attacking recklessly instead of methodically. One Scrix committed too hard to a lunge and crashed into another. Sarah's plasma blade found the opening. By the time the fight ended, for Scrix lay dead and 2 had retreated through the gates they had entered from. Sarah stood in the center of the arena, her armor dented and one shoulder bleeding, but still on her feet. She looked up at the observation deck and saw Zextor staring back at her. His 4 hands had curled into fists. The commander turned to his subordinates and spoke a single command that made every official in the room go silent. Activate the decimator protocol. The arena floor had been cleared of bodies and debris. Sarah sat in a holding cell just off the main combat area, drinking water and catching her breath. Her shoulder throbbed where a Scrick's tail had caught her, but the wound was shallow. She had been lucky. Through the cell speakers, she could hear the sudden commotion in the observation deck. Raised voices in multiple languages, all overlapping. Something had changed. Ambassador Telmora appeared at the cell door, her face tight with concern. Dr. Chun, I must inform you that Commander Zextor has invoked an ancient arena protocol. He has called for the Exathrene. Sarah looked up. What is an Exathrene? A mistake, Telmora said quietly. 20 years ago, the Crethean Empire created a bioweapon, combining genetic material from the deadliest predators across 12 worlds. They created the perfect killer. It was meant for war, but the project was deemed too dangerous. The creature was supposed to be destroyed, but instead, they kept it here, in the arena, as a final test. How many have survived fighting it? Sarah asked. Telmora's silence was answer enough. I see, Sarah said calmly. Can I refuse? Arena law states that once a challenge is issued, it must be answered. If you refuse, your species will be marked as cowards. You will be denied council consideration for at least a century. Telmora's voice dropped. I am sorry. Zextor has gone too far, but the law binds us all. Sarah stood and walked to the cell door. I need 1 hour to prepare. And I need access to 3 things. The Arena Environmental Control Manual, basic chemicals from your medical supplies, and a maintenance schedule for the arena's lighting system. Telmora blinked. Why would you need these things? Because, Sarah said, if I am going to face a perfect predator, I need to understand the environment we will fight in. Predators do not exist in a vacuum. They are shaped by their surroundings, and their surroundings can be shaped by someone who knows how. The hour passed quickly. Sarah studied the environmental systems, made notes, and requested specific chemical compounds that the medics found harmless and strange. Ammonia, concentrated capsaicin extract, industrial solvents. She mixed them carefully in small containers that she attached to her belt. On Earth, billions of humans watched the live broadcast. Governments convened emergency sessions. Military fleets prepared to launch. If Sarah Chen died in that arena, humanity would not forget. They would not forgive. But Sarah was not thinking about politics or revenge. She was thinking about a video she had seen during her research preparation. The Exathrene, recorded from a previous arena fight. 20 feet of armored nightmare. Claws that could shred steel. A hide that could deflect plasma weapons. Regeneration that healed wounds in seconds. Thermal vision that could see heat signatures through walls. And a sonic weapon, a roar that could rupture organs at close range. It had killed its last opponent in 18 seconds. Sarah stepped back onto the arena floor. The crowd had tripled in size. Word had spread across the station that a human was about to face the Exathrene. Some came to watch history. Others came to watch an execution. The far gate began to open. The grinding of ancient machinery echoed through the vast space. Sarah could hear something moving behind the gate. Something large. The sound of claws on metal. The sound of breathing that was more like a growl. The Exathrene emerged into the light. It was worse than the videos had shown. Its body was covered in overlapping plates of bioarmor that shifted like liquid. Its eyes were multifaceted, designed to see across multiple spectrums. Acid dripped from its jaws, burning small craters in the stone floor. Every muscle rippled with contained violence. The creature saw Sarah and went completely still. It was evaluating her, calculating. This was not a mindless beast. It was intelligent. In the observation deck, every being present held their breath. Even Zextor looked uncertain now, as if realizing he might have made a terrible mistake. On the arena floor, Sarah Chun stood perfectly still. She studied the creature for a long moment. Then, slowly, deliberately, she smiled. It was not a nervous smile. It was not a smile of fear. It was a smile of someone who had just solved a very interesting puzzle. She brought 2 fingers to her lips and whistled. A sharp, clear note that echoed across the arena. It was not a call for help. It was a challenge. The X-A-Threne tilted its massive head, confused by the tiny creature that showed no fear. Then it roared, a sound that shook dust from the arena's ceiling, and charged forward like an avalanche of teeth and claws. Sarah ran directly toward it. The collision everyone expected never came. At the last possible moment, Sarah dropped and slid beneath the X-A-Threne's massive body, her momentum carrying her past its claws. As she passed underneath, she hurled one of her chemical containers upward. The glass shattered against the creature's softer underbelly, coating it with a mixture of ammonia and capsaicin. The X-A-Threne howled, more in surprise than pain. Its thermal vision flared white as the chemicals created false heat signatures across its own body. It spun around, trying to locate Sarah, but she was already running toward the rocky outcroppings on the eastern side of the arena. In the observation deck, Kthar leaned forward. She is running away. The human has lost her courage. No, Telmora said slowly. She is making it chase her. But why? Sarah's mind was clear despite her racing heart. She had watched the video of the X-A-Threne's last fight 17 times during her preparation hour. She had seen how it moved, how it hunted. The creature was built for overwhelming force and quick kills. It had never faced an opponent who survived longer than 30 seconds. It had never needed to pace itself. Sarah reached the rocks and immediately changed direction, forcing the X-A-Threne to adjust its charge. The creature's claws tore through stone as it pivoted. It was fast, incredibly fast, but that speed came at a cost. Energy, every burst of acceleration, every sharp turn, every movement of that massive body burned fuel. She was going to make it waste every drop. The X-A-Threne caught up to her near the center of the arena. Its claws swept through the space where she had been a heartbeat before. Sarah rolled, came up throwing another chemical container. This one contained pure capsaicin concentrate mixed with industrial solvent. It splashed across the creature's multifaceted eyes. The X-A-Threne reared back, its sonic roar shaking the viewing stands. But Sarah had already moved, sprinting for the northern section where she had noticed the lighting panels were older, their frequencies adjustable through the environmental controls she had studied. As she ran, she pulled a small remote from her belt. She had convinced the arena technicians it was a harmless signaling device. But it also broadcast on the same frequency as the environmental control system. A crude hack, but she had only needed 1 hour to prepare it. She pressed a button. The arena lights began to strobe at precisely calculated intervals. The frequency was designed to interfere with the X-A-Threne's thermal vision, creating a disorienting effect similar to a migraine. The creature shook its massive head, confused by the sensory overload. Sarah kept running, kept the creature chasing. Minutes passed. 5, 10, 15. The X-A-Threne was still incredibly dangerous, but it was slowing. Its regeneration was healing the minor burns from the chemicals. But regeneration required energy. Its charges were becoming slightly less precise. In the observation deck, the mood had shifted from certainty to confusion. Why is the creature not catching her? Someone asked. Because, Telmora said with growing realization, humans are endurance hunters. They evolved to chase prey across vast distances until the prey collapsed from exhaustion. She is not trying to kill it quickly. She is trying to wear it down. Sarah's lungs burned and her legs screamed, but she kept moving. This was what humans did. They ran. They kept running when stronger, faster predators gave up. They ran until the sun set and rose again. They ran until their prey simply stopped being able to continue. The X-A-Threne was built to be unstoppable, but nothing had prepared it for prey that refused to stop running. 20 minutes into the fight, the creature made its first major mistake. It lunged too hard at Sarah, overcommitting to the attack. Its momentum carried it into one of the rock formations. The impact cracked the stone and tore several of the creature's armor plates loose. Acidic blood spilled from the wounds, burning through its own damaged armor. Sarah saw the opportunity. She had led the creature to this specific rock formation deliberately. It was structurally weakened, designed to collapse with the right impact. As the X-A3 pulled itself free, Sarah threw her last chemical container at the base of the rocks. The explosion was small, but precisely placed. The rock formation collapsed onto the X-A3, pinning one of its legs. The creature roared and began pulling itself free, its strength still enormous. But Sarah was not finished. She circled around, staying just out of reach, watching. The X-A3's movements were sluggish now. Its regeneration was struggling to keep up with multiple injuries. Its thermal vision was still disrupted by the strobing lights. For the first time in its existence, the perfect predator was learning what it felt like to be hunted. The X-A3 finally freed itself in the collapsed rocks, but the movement was slow and labored. 30 minutes had passed since the fight began. The creature had never fought for more than 2 minutes before. Its body was designed for explosive violence, not endurance. Every breath came harder now. Its legs trembled slightly with each step. Sarah had stopped running. She stood in the center of the arena, perfectly still, watching the creature approach. Her armor was dented and scorched. Blood ran from a cut above her eye. But her breathing, though heavy, was controlled, measured. She had run marathons before. She had tracked animals through the bush for days without rest. This was painful, but pain was something humans understood very well. The X-A3 took 3 more steps toward her, then stopped. Its massive body swayed slightly. The creature's enhanced biology was failing. Too much regeneration, too much exertion, too many chemicals disrupting its senses. Its legs buckled, and the great predator collapsed on the arena floor with a thunderous crash. Sarah approached slowly, cautiously. The creature's eyes tracked her movement, but it did not rise. Could not rise. She could see its sides heaving with exhaustion. For a moment, she simply looked at it, not with hatred or triumph, but with a professional assessment of scientists observing a magnificent and dangerous animal. Then she did something that shocked every being in the observation deck. She removed her helmet and knelt beside the X-A3's massive head. She began speaking softly, in the same tone she had once used with injured crocodiles and frightened predators. The words did not matter. The tone did. "It's all right," she murmured. "You fought well. Rest now. Nobody's going to hurt you." The X-A3's breathing gradually slowed. Its eyes, which had shown only rage and hunger before, now showed something else. Confusion, perhaps, or maybe the first glimmer of something beyond pure instinct. In the observation deck, the silence was absolute. Commander Zextor stood frozen, all 4 arms hanging limply at his sides. His expression had transformed from arrogance to something that might have been fear. Ambassador Telmora was the first to speak. "I move for immediate elevation of humanity to full Galactic Council status, with all rights and protections thereof." The vote was unanimous. Even Zextor, after a long pause, raised his hands in agreement. Sarah was escorted from the arena floor to a wave of stunned applause. Medical teams rushed to treat both her and the X-A3. She insisted on observing the creature's treatment, taking notes on its biology, asking questions about its care and feeding. The arena veterinarians had never seen anyone show such interest in the monster that had nearly killed them. 3 days later, Sarah stood before the full Galactic Council. Her arm was in a sling and stitches lined her forehead, but she stood straight and calm. "Dr. Chun," the council speaker began, "you have proven beyond doubt that humanity possesses the qualities necessary for advanced civilization. Your courage, your intelligence, and your skill have earned your species a place among us. What you wish to say?" Sarah looked around the chamber at the hundreds of alien species represented. "You tested us by asking if we could survive your monsters. But you asked the wrong question. You assumed that because we lack claws and armor, we are weak. You forgot to ask how a species without natural weapons became the dominant life form on a planet filled with creatures stronger and faster than us." She paused, letting her words sink in. "We did it by thinking, by adapting, by refusing to give up. We learned to read patterns, to understand behavior, to use our environment as a weapon. We learned to outlast everything that tried to kill us. And most importantly, we learned that intelligence is not about being the strongest. It is about being the one who is still standing when the fight is over. The chamber remained silent. Sarah continued, I did not come here to prove we are warriors. I came here to prove we are survivors. And now I have a question for all of you. If this is how we handle your tests, what do you think happens when we're the ones doing the testing? The question hung in the air like smoke. Across the galaxy, military strategists began revising their threat assessments. Arena masters reviewed their protocols. And a new term entered the common vocabulary of spacefaring species: human doctrine. Never assume physical limitations equal weakness. Sarah returned her to hero, but she declined interviews and celebrations. Instead, she went back to her research. She had new subjects to study now: alien predators. And the XA-3, which she visited regularly, was learning to respond to her voice. In its containment facility, the perfect predator had begun to show something its creators never intended: the capacity to learn beyond instinct. It watched Sarah through the observation window and tilted its head in what might have been recognition. She smiled and whistled softly. The creature impossibly whistled back.